So the another analogy I can give you is a lot of people talk about trends, and trends, why I advise against them is they're fleeting. Like you think about one of the biggest trends back in the day, the ice bucket challenge. Nobody uses that today. So you're switching from trend to trend to trend. So let's just say, as an analogy, we wanted to learn a musical instrument, and there's two paths we could take, the trend route or the format route. So the trend route would say, week 1, we're going to start with the piano. Week 2, we're going to move to the violin. Week 3, we're going to move to the guitar. Week 4, we're going to move to the drums. Like, how are you going to master any musical instrument if you're changing the goalpost each time? Versus a format says, well, let's spend 6 months learning the piano and let's master all the nuances of it so that our creativity can flow within it. So that format gives you a tremendous amount of creativity, but it also gives you a foundation for success. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to master the nuances within the wheel to become an expert storyteller.
I want to add to this. A lot of creatives, and I taught creatives for many years prior to getting onto social media, they swim in chaos and they like this idea, like, I'll just figure it out, I'll invent things. And they're delusional because what they think is original is just a lack of history, what's come before. And so that expression is cliche at this point. Don't reinvent the wheel, reinvent how it's used. And that becomes much more interesting. What structures allow us to do is to have a higher probability of success and removes a lot of like, what am I going to start with? Where does it end? And then it allows you to play within the variables themselves. If we think about like cooking, there's a recipe, there's a formula. And if you want to have success and you want to be able to not only do that dish right one time, but 100 times, especially when it's critical, if you're trying to impress the in-laws, if you had important guests over, you want to be able to make that again and again. So believe it or not, structure and creativity go really well together. Whereas chaos and creativity, it's just a mess because you don't know what. And it's probably one of the reasons why a lot of super creative people struggle with creating consistently and getting consistent results. So I'm all for that, by the way.
Yeah, and you can even see the success you have, especially in your short form content, is you use like a seminar format that has worked for you and you keep going back to it. But even within that format, the unique value you provide each time feels unique. It feels different. It's not like you're repeating the same thing over and over again. So it's more about, and people say, well, I don't want to copy other people. You're not copying other people, you're copying a structure. And oftentimes that structure was invented before social media, and you're using that structure to deliver your own unique insights, your own unique value to it.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to say about formats?
No, well, so that's the step 1 of the process. And you talk about recipes. This is my favorite recipe. It's the recipe for success in social media, the recipe for virality. So once we kind of made that mindset shift and at least understand that formats exist and what they look like. And we talked about a few. We talked about Man on the Street. We talked about 2 characters, 1 light bulb. There's another one called Walking Listicles. I don't know if you know Robert Croak, the founder of Silly Bands, but he just walks around with an iPhone around the block and lists things out. So once we have understood what a format is, the second thing that we need to do is select a format and then analyze it.
Okay.
So one of the 2 questions that I give clients in terms of selecting a format are very simplistic, but super critically important. The first is, what resources do you have? Social media and formats, you don't need to extend beyond your resources. I think a lot of people will tell you, well, you need a fancy camera, you need a social media manager, you need a big team or a big budget. But there's literally formats, like we work with, we worked with this hand doctor, Dr. Hernandez. Literally, she had no experience in social media, and we're just like, okay, we're going to design a format around that. And she's just recording it on her iPhone. So I want people to start with the resources they have. You don't need to extend beyond that because, again, there's hundreds of these formats out there. And then the second question is, well, what format excites you? What, you look at it and you're like, I would love to wake up every single day and create content with this format. Because if it doesn't excite you, you're going to burn yourself out, or that inauthenticity is going to come off on screen. And again, there's hundreds of these formats to choose from. So don't just jump at the first one and be like, you know what? He is, generating tens of millions of views with this. So I'm going to do it just because he's having success. That's a recipe for a disaster because you're just not going to keep up with it. So those are 2 key questions to ask yourself. Now, once we have gone through that process, we found our format. This is where 99% of people fail in this process. They will look at like the man on the street format and they'll be like, oh man, that's super easy. Or they'll look at your format. Oh, he's just sitting there at a whiteboard, just writing down things. I know what he's doing. He got 50 million views on that video. I can do the same. But the reality is you don't understand why it had success. So we need to analyze that format and study it. In the same way, when I went to film school, you have to like sit down and watch classic movies, write screenplays and things of that nature. So we created a proprietary process called gold, silver, bronze. So we'll take a format, let's just take man on the street for right now, and we'll open up a Google spreadsheet and we'll put 5 to 10 of the high performers in that format from a single creator. In that format, it's at least 5 million views plus. That's the gold standard. Then we have the average, which is like 500,000 to 1 million. We'll do 5 or 10 of those. And then 5 or 10 of the underperformers, the bronze. So once we have that, then we're going to do a cross analysis. What that means is we're going to watch the gold, the high standard ones, and then we're going to cross analyze it against the low performer, the bronze ones. And we're going to look at what is the difference. And oftentimes it is not the content, but the context. So it's like, is there a promise of value? What's the pacing? If it's a reaction-based thing, what are the reactions of the person you're interacting with? What are the title cards? What are the captions? These small nuances that make up the telling of the story.